Mental health is something we all need to stay on top of, especially professional athletes. While awareness of mental health has come on leaps and bounds in football, many pros have come out and said that they don't feel it's being taken seriously enough. I'm joined with Brentford sports psychologist Michael Caulfield to answer the question, is enough being done to support footballers' mental health? I'm Harry Ince, and this is the Athletic FC podcast. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Athletic FC podcast. I'm Harry Ince, and today with me I have renowned sports psychologist Michael Caulfield. Hi Michael, thank you for being here. Right, let's get straight into it. Could you please explain your role at Brentford to me?
I'm the team psychologist, the club
Mm,
psychologist. So I've been very lucky to hold that position down for a number of years.
mm. And so how does that
Very lucky.
work?
I go in twice. I go in twice a week with the first team,
Mm,
Harry, and to use their phrase, I wander around a lot.
mm,
I don't have a desk or an office or a uniform or a
mm.
tracksuit. And you pick up people on a very individual and very private basis, as and when the timing you think is right. So I'm very fortunate. You form private relationships, personal relationships, and you do your best to help the group, help the
Mm.
culture. You just do what I think is right. And
Okay.
of course, I'm qualified, so I've got that dreadful title, sports psychologist, but also I think I offer more support than just a psychological one. The best advice, Harry, I was given in 1999 was
Mm,
a leading coach who said, Michael, you'll find out over the rest of your life that the most important thing they want someone to talk to. And
mm.
they do, Harry. They want someone to talk to. I think it's because, particularly in elite sport, they're judged, they're measured, they're scrutinized, they're watched, they're observed.
Mm.
And I don't pick the team, I don't pick the players, I don't offer contracts, I can't withdraw contracts. Probably that little sort of safe island they can go, oh, I'm fed
Mm.
up today, or I'm pleased today, or I'm down today, or I'm up today.
Mm.
Did you see that last week? Did you see that last month? How do you think we're
Mm.
doing? How do you think I'm doing? And you can just guide them in a very private and confidential way.
Mm. I think you're spot on the money there. There's just so much pressure and scrutiny heaped on these players from so many people. I can't start to imagine what effect that has on their mental health.
I've always said just because they play football doesn't make them immune to it or
Mm,
make them stronger than that. It simply doesn't. So they are as vulnerable to any mental health issue as you and me,
mm,
as you and me. Simple as that. And
mm,
because we're all wired differently, we all have so many things we've been through in our life.
mm.
It's quite extraordinary. So now, if you then play football and you get the equal rewards, but also the equal criticism you also get, it may make you that little bit more, dare I say it, susceptible to it as well.
Do you believe that maybe social media has had an impact on this?
I can only speak of the level I work at,
Mm,
which is I'm lucky, a very high level, is
mm,
the amount of scrutiny and judgment and comment upon them is obviously greater than ever before because if you do something well or badly,
mm,
it will go viral within seconds. So
mm,
if you do something stupid or something brilliant, you'll get that reaction either way.
mm,
And it's just simply no good telling someone not to have an Instagram account or not to have a Twitter account or not to look online
mm.
because they will hear about it. They
Yeah.
will hear about it. So I think now the breathing space, the normality space is getting tighter and tighter than ever. And so if even if you say you don't, if you've got every week, if you're being abused online or mentally abused online or racially abused online or performance abused online, look at
Mm,
Harry Maguire. Now he's got this he's got the character and the family and the support network to get through it, but not everyone has.
mm.
And it is not easy if every day, Harry, you woke up and you read online every day that Harry Ince was a useless piece of shit.
Yeah.
You would find that difficult.
Yeah,
Every
definitely.
day you saw that you were useless, or they said you were too tall, or you were too small, or you were too left-footed, or too slow, or too big. It beats you up.
There's that constant need for perfection, I kind of think, which fans require. And they're very vocal, especially on Twitter. I am quite active on Twitter, and I see it in the reaction I get. I work for a football club as well, Waterlooville, just
Yeah, I
outside
know them.
Portsmouth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know them. Of course I do. Yeah,
I'm doing
yeah,
the
yeah.
update, and I look through their comment section, and it just the barrage of abuse that the players get for a wrong decision. Or so for
And
this
that
week,
and what league you in, if I can ask?
the Vanarama National League South, so it's step six.
Yeah, I know the one.
Even the scrutiny at that level is, I don't know how the players can look at it. So couldn't imagine what it's like at the top level.
Well, you imagine
Um,
that if you're in the actual genuine big leagues, it's relentless,
mm.
relentless.
A lot of the time in interviews, you see footballers going, "Oh, we don't read the comments. We don't care what people say." Is that the case, or is it very much that I can speak from personally. If I had a rubbish game and I
Yeah.
knew there was going to be a barrage of abuse on social media, I don't think I could look away from it.
It's very tempting to say I won't look at it, but then you hear about it, or someone will tell you about it, or
Mm,
you walk past a TV screen and it's on. It's really difficult now to complete. I know some people in high level sport who actually have never ever engaged in social media,
mm,
and I think they're better people for it. I mean, I'm a self-employed person.
mm,
You almost need a social media account to let people know you exist. Do I enjoy it? No,
mm.
no, but I
No,
think I've got to do it.
I think the level of pressure has really been raised by social media. Before it would have been two people in the stands having a private conversation. Now it's a conversation where millions of people are involved, and the footballers can see it. But do you think that possibly footballers were not very well prepared for this because mental health was not taken very seriously in sport before?
No, I don't. I really don't. I think it's been addressed and it's changed, of course, because I grew up in the 70s, 60s and 70s, and it's changed hugely since then.
Mm,
Hugely. And the support, I mean, every club now has much more medical support than ever for mental and physical.
mm,
So no, I don't think it's ignored. I just still like every walk of life, we are evolving as people, as a species, and so
mm.
the support has to evolve as well. So we're always learning. But no, I think that there's a huge amount of investment in player care these days. There really is.
When did that start to change though? Because I spoke to a footballer, Graham Stack, who's the Watford Academy goalkeeping coach, and he came through the ranks at Arsenal. And he
Mm.
told me that when he was coming through in 2003, 2004, there was no help. It was
No, it
essentially,
was. I think what happened in those days is I mean, when I'll give you a quote of when Alex Ferguson took over as the manager of Man United,
mm,
the number of staff in his first team looking after the first team numbered six.
mm,
It now, when he left, it numbered 36,
mm,
which is a huge leap, huge leap.
mm,
So when Graham Stack was at Arsenal in 2003, there are probably six people in total looking after the first team.
mm,
Well, now they travel with 30 staff, so
mm,
the numbers have increased. And it all used to go through the manager and the physio in those days.
mm,
But I also know players from that era who would still look up to their managers from that era now and from before, by the way. He would say they were also, as well as being the manager and the head coach, they were also their father figure. And so my hero in sport was Bill Shankly growing up. I mean, he was
mm,
the greatest sports psychologist and supporter of them all.
mm.
So it has developed and has changed because someone like me would not have worked in football 50 years ago, wouldn't have existed. But they do get well supported now. That has changed.
Mm. So, how do you work with the coach and the playing staff to make sure there is a positive feeling around mental health at the club?
I think understanding is the word, and you can always sort of not tip people off and say how's so and so this week. How's Billy? How's Harry this week? How's Billy this week? Because everyone in that team, no one's in the same place, exactly the same place 2 days running.
Mm,
No one.
yeah.
So again, you work. I actually said to one of our operations managers last week, he is a
Mm,
huge help to me,
yeah.
a huge help to me, and he's on the ops staff. I use every person who works in and around the football team. I use them to help me because they might see more people than me.
Mm. So it's a massive collaborative effort to instill that kind
Absolutely, yeah.
of football is a team sport. How important is it that the players speak to each other and are open with each other about their mental health, or do you find that that's not the case at all?
No, I'm sure they do, but they probably do it, Harry, in private.
Yeah.
And there are certain things in the way that we should all have a degree of privacy in our lives because whether if you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a
Mm,
partner or non-partner or a sister or a brother or whatever,
mm,
there are certain things you always want to talk about in private.
mm,
And I think that goes on more than we probably appreciate.
yeah. Okay.
So that player A might turn to player B and go, mate, I'm struggling this week.
Mm,
I'm down the dumps. And so I think more things happen in private than we appreciate.
yeah.
And they should be left to happen in private, Harry, because we all still crave our privacy.
It's interesting there that you speak about players being private with their mental health and speaking about it with each other, because a lot of young players have taken the step to speak to the public about how they're feeling. You know, you look at Lyle Foster at Burnley, who's very publicly taken a step away from professional football to focus on his mental health. But then on the other hand, you look at players like Jeremy Winston at Man City, who very sadly took his own life when he was released by the club. So what I'm asking is, do you think that young players are being protected enough, or are they just being left out in the open to speak about how they feel?
All I can speak about from my own personal experience is that, and I've got my document just up there, I think it is.
Mm,
If I can just reach for it. This is the most comprehensive booklet I've ever read.
mm,
That's Brentford's safeguarding booklet. And
mm,
as you can see, it's page after page after page
mm,
of information and working on safeguarding. So I think it's taken far more, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze, seriously than ever. And my first thought when working with the younger sports team is always paying attention to the safeguarding regulations.
yeah.
More and more is being, again, it's an area of real progression each and every week.
Something that I was thinking, but I'd like to know if you agree with the same. Do you feel that younger players coming through now have a better understanding of their mental health than their older counterparts?
Yes, I think that they're far more willing to
Mm,
discuss it and ask more. I know two young players now who are reading about it. You know that they're genuinely taking an interest
mm.
in their mental health and they're buying books on mental health, and so that is really encouraging, really encouraging.
So do you maybe feel that the fact that young players are so open and so willing to learn about their mental health has started to destigmatize the subject in football?
Harry, if you know to be 100, it won't be destigmatized. Just getting better understood,
Mm,
better accepted. That's important. Uh, yes. There will always be a degree of stigma around mental health. I think there will be in 100 years' time because our private thoughts and emotions and feelings are very private. I won't tell you everything about me, and you wouldn't tell me everything about you. Why should you?
mm,
And also, at the moment, we're still blokes, and so we have this certain a bit of, "Whoa, we'll be all right." You know, we've still got that about us. So discussing that in a team environment will always be really hard.
mm,
And so I think people will always shield and mask
mm,
how they're really feeling. A
mm.
good person will be able to understand that and accept it, but still manage to help the person.
Mm.
Still
Okay.
manage to help the person.
What do you think can be done still to help further destigmatize mental health in football?
I think if some of the best players in the leagues and in the game, men and women are doing it probably more than men at the moment.
Mm,
Uh, and we've had many a good player in recent years come out and say, "I really struggled." I
mm,
mean, I think even Wayne Rooney has admitted he struggled, and David Beckham. The more that the leading participants say, the mental side of the game and my own well-being was the most important bit. I didn't understand it until I did X, Y, and Z in the
mm,
way that Rodney O'Sullivan's doing it now in snooker and Andy
mm,
Murray's doing it in tennis. The more that people who've played at the highest level and coached at the highest level, which they are openly saying, Marcus Trescothick, his book's behind me here.
mm,
His book was a brilliant. It was probably the game-changing book on mental health and sport. Graham
mm,
Fowler also wrote a very good book about it. The more they say, Ben Stokes. I mean, Ben Stokes in cricket is the best example. You know, Ben's taken time out to Owen Farrell in rugby. So the more that footballers do that, the easier it might become or will
okay.
become.
Quickly, are female players more open to talking than the men at the moment?
I think that because the game is in its early stage of its real professional development, I think women in all sports, and some of the leading tennis players have done it, and the brilliant gymnast Simone
Mm,
Biles, she spoke about it. I think that they've been probably more willing to open up more,
mm,
far more. I mean, if you look at the number of gay relationships in women's sport, for example, they're far more open to say, yeah, I'm in a loving
mm,
relationship, or they can marry. You know, some of the England cricket team are married to each other.
mm.
So that shows you that they're more comfortable talking about the very private things in their lives.
Mm. I know, especially at Arsenal, I know Beth Mead and another player are in a relationship.
Absolutely. The flourishing growth of women's sport and professional sport is a joy to behold.
I'd like to say thanks to Michael Crawford for taking time out of his day. It was great to talk to him. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast. As always, it would be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for listening. This has been the Athletic FC podcast. See you next time.